So by episode 7, I was like, not me agreeing with Uche. Hello, everyone. My name is T Hunter. If this is your first time coming to my channel, welcome. If you are a returning viewer, welcome back. And thank you so much for coming back. So today we're just going to jump right on in to my reaction video to this current season of Love is Blind Season 5 with a special focus on the Aaliyah, Uche, and Lydia triangle, disaster, trifecta. It's a lot. Okay, so a little background on the show. The premise of Love is Blind is for singles to come together and they build an emotional connection, sight unseen, in the pods. The men have their living quarters and the women have their living quarters. They are not supposed to see each other unless they agree to get engaged, and ideally that will lead to a marriage. So similar to Married at First Sight, the participants are not supposed to know each other prior to signing up for this experiment. Let's keep that in mind. So our key players are Uche, a 34-year-old lawyer, Lydia, a 32-year-old geologist, and Aaliyah, a 29-year-old ICU travel nurse. Uche and Aaliyah started to form a pretty decent connection, and they decided to date each other exclusively in the experiment. They even went so far as to declare their love for each other and their desire to lead the experiment together, get engaged and get married. So how did this couple go from being on the right track according to the show's purpose to getting derailed? 3 things. I would say a lack of emotional safety, deception, and poor boundaries. So let's start with the insensitivity. Uche and Aaliyah in episode 1 had a conversation about their deal breakers. Now they both declared that lying and cheating are major deal breakers for the two of them. Uche then asked Aaliyah if she had ever cheated, and I could sense her initial reluctance to share, but she ultimately did. And the conversation quickly went downhill. I could see Uche's demeanor shifting once Aaliyah did disclose that she had a history of cheating in a previous relationship 2 years ago. And in my opinion, Uche did not create the safest of spaces for this disclosure. And instead of creating safety, listening, or even asking for a timeout because the details were a bit too much for him, I felt like he went into lawyer mode. And immediately he was firing off questions as if he was in the courtroom attempting to destroy a witness's credibility. It was giving Annalise Keating energy, and you need that in the courtroom. Not so much in your personal relationships with the person you're trying to date. I will say this. I can completely understand Uche's disappointment and Aaliyah's confession of cheating in the past, giving him pause. If cheating is a deal breaker and the woman or the man you are dating has cheated and they never confessed this wrong to their previous partner, yes, that is a huge red flag. Absolutely. The problem is Aaliyah hid nothing from Uche, and yet he continued to drill down and throw what I perceive to be judgmental jabs while she was being vulnerable with him about this very poor choice. I honestly thought that this specific conversation would be the end of these two. They would stop talking to each other. Hey, cheating is a deal breaker. You acknowledge that you cheated in the past, and you've kept the cheating a secret. So your ex is going to find out on national television that you cheated on him because you guys didn't have this conversation. So yeah, if you know that cheating is your deal breaker and you have trust issues around this, you have every right to walk away from someone who is causing you not to trust them anymore. No harm, no foul. But I was confused because he did not explicitly say, you know what, it's a no for me. So I have to admit, their follow-up conversation after, that heavy bomb was dropped, I was cringing a bit, watching him reel Aaliyah back in and then deciding to make amends. So 2 things can be true. When you are in an accelerated dating experiment such as Love is Blind, people will need to open up faster than they might do if they were dating outside of this process. Hence the conversations on deal breakers within the first few dates. And number two, mishandling someone while they are being vulnerable with you could kill the relationship. Why? Because difficult conversations and hard truths will come up repeatedly. If we are harsh, overly critical, unforgiving, judgmental, or even self-righteous during such exchanges, people may dread being vulnerable with us in the future. They can either avoid it altogether or they can aggressively clap back if they feel that they are being backed into a corner whenever they have to disclose a hard truth or they have to share, hey, I made a mistake, and their partner does not convey that they are a safe space. It's not always the topic that can lead to the destruction of a relationship, but it's how we handle ourselves during difficult conversations that will make or break our loved one's desire to freely share their shortcomings with us. It is better to err on the side of responding with intentionality and care than letting our emotions take the wheel, because while our emotions may be valid, they are fleeting and they can change. If Uche and Aaliyah would have tabled this conversation earlier and resumed it the following day, perhaps that may have looked more like creating a safe space. There's nothing wrong with saying to your partner in the heat of a disagreement or in the heat of a very sensitive discussion, hey, can you give me 5 minutes? Or let's get some rest and we'll talk about this tomorrow. It's okay to pause a conversation, especially when any of the involved parties are becoming emotionally flooded. So let's go ahead and move on to the deception. After Uche and Aaliyah have their follow-up conversation and state that they will continue moving forward, here comes yet another bomb. So Lydia, the geologist, is another participant on the show who just so happens to be Uche's ex. Now, whether they were seriously involved or simply friends with benefits, I don't know, and quite frankly, I don't care. What bothered me about this revelation was it seemed like Uche was limited in his ability to give Aaliyah grace for hiding the fact that she cheated on someone he does not know. Meanwhile, his whole ex is on the show, and that wasn't something that was discussed up front. Granted, I can understand why production told Uche and Lydia not to disclose that they had a previous connection to anyone on the show, because that would compromise the entire experiment. But to me, it would have made more sense for Uche and Lydia to at least tell the people that they were seriously pursuing Aaliyah and Uche's case and Milton and Lydia's case, the truth about their shared past. But one clear difference that I did notice between Uche and Aaliyah was the presence of compassion and patience on her end. I believe she even took a break, left the pods, and came back after taking a moment to process all that she was hearing. Like, oh wow, this woman that I formed a pretty intense connection with as a potential friend is my man's ex. Yeah, I'm going to need a minute to process that. Yeah, I would not have blamed her had she stormed out of the pods and immediately had a physical or verbal altercation with Lydia, or if she simply just left and decided not to hear Uche out any further once he told her that he and Lydia had previously dated. So production aside, I am still curious why Uche could not have said anything to Aaliyah sooner. Even if he would have pulled whoever aside and said, things are getting really serious with Aaliyah, and we have said that our deal breakers are lying and deception. So in order to not come across as someone who is being deceitful, I need to tell her, hey, my ex is here. This is her name. So moving forward, you can make an educated decision on how much contact or interaction you're going to have with her, because it could be a problem. If the reasoning for not telling Aaliyah about Lydia sooner was risking his place in the experiment, If production would have expelled Uche from the experiment, he and Aaliyah are grown, consenting adults who could have still chosen to pursue each other outside of it if they truly wanted a clean slate. This is proof that what we don't know can hurt us either immediately or later on. And this detail that was hidden as a result of production's instructions was hurtful to Aaliyah and Uche's relationship, and I don't think that that was fair. Moving on to number 3, the third reason why I believe that Aaliyah and Uche's relationship was derailed: poor boundaries. As someone who has previously struggled with setting healthy and realistic boundaries with people, this whole disaster between Uche, Aaliyah, and Lydia made me want to scream at the TV multiple times. This could have been resolved and possibly even avoided altogether with healthy boundaries. Lydia's behavior regarding Uche was screaming, "I'm not over this man." She explicitly asked Uche if them meeting in the pods was a sign that they should try again. The purpose of this experiment is not to reconnect and rekindle a former flame. If Uche wanted Lydia, he could have pursued Lydia, but he did not. In fact, he was the one that initiated the breakup 2 times outside of this experiment. Not only did Uche tell Lydia that he did not want to start over in the pods, he clearly stated that he was not serious about her when they previously dated. He decided to end things because he was not going to give her that serious commitment. And in the words of Judge Lynn Toller, don't let a man tell you that he doesn't want you more than once. That applies to the fellas too. We don't need to hear over and over and over again that someone we're interested in doesn't want us. It's not helpful, it's not healthy over time. It's a hard message to hear, but I'm sure that it could be even harder to have to hear it repeatedly because we're not taking them seriously. Breakups are hard, yes, but you know what's harder? Entertaining someone who treats you like their option when you could be with someone who will not only pursue you, but they will prioritize their pursuit of you. Lydia's unhealthy attachment to Aaliyah reminded me that some people will only pursue you to get what they want from you. At times, I felt like Lydia wanted to live vicariously through Aaliyah because here's this new girl that has Uche's attention. Instead of just moving forward, Lydia continued to discuss Uche with Aaliyah ad nauseum, and Aaliyah even told her, "Hey, I don't want to know a lot of things about Uche outside of, what he would ultimately tell her should they leave the experiment together." But I have to ask Aaliyah, where were the boundaries? You came to Love is Blind with the hopes of finding a husband, not a TV show best friend who will play aunt to your future children. I don't know how the women who sign up for Love is Blind can feel so comfortable discussing their progress with certain connections, knowing that you guys are all dating the same men and there aren't going to be any throuples. One man will choose one woman will choose one man. So I'm not discussing the intimate details of my relationship with someone who could potentially be connecting with the man that I'm supposed to be dating, and not expect there to be blurred lines and blurred boundaries. Even though Lydia wasn't going to pursue Uche, so she said, it's still weird to have the ex in your face trying to be cozy with you. When Lydia was rattling off all of these intimate details about Uche, such as, the color of his car, what his house looked like, and I thought to myself, Aaliyah, you could have left the couch mid-sentence, but she did not make that choice. Sometimes our words are simply not enough. In order to convey that you mean what you say, we have to follow through with our actions. And that is essential when setting boundaries. You say it, reiterate it if you need to, and then through your behaviors, you follow through. Final thoughts on Uche, Aaliyah, and Lydia. I will just break it down by each person. So I'll start with Uche. He had every right to have questions and doubts about Aaliyah following her disclosure of cheating and not telling her ex that she cheated. I can't imagine how difficult it was for him to find out that she left the very day that he was planning on proposing to her. These responses, cheating when she was dissatisfied, leaving the experiment without having a conversation with Uche, talking to Lydia instead of cutting her off and solely approaching Uche with her thoughts, feelings, concerns, whatever about their relationship. These responses, they do not look promising when you consider the context of relational longevity. If we're supposed to be in this for the long haul, but when challenges arise, you don't come and talk to me. You don't tell me that you have issues. You don't tell me that you have questions or concerns or fears. I'm in the dark that you're feeling differently about us than I am. And that's not fair. Even the perfect couples that we want to give the slogan relationship goals to, they have challenges. They have disagreements. That's not foreign. However, how we respond can make or break the relationship. So the feedback that I would give Uche is, while it is perfectly okay to hold someone accountable, drilling down relentlessly when they're being vulnerable with you about a bad choice isn't the best approach. Vulnerability requires safe people in safe spaces. As I said previously, I would have encouraged Uche to table the conversation for the evening and pick it back up the following morning versus sitting and listening to all the hard details that Aaliyah disclosed in one setting. That's a lot for anyone. So by episode 7, I was like, not me agreeing with Uche. I don't agree with this edit of Uche being this villain or that he is displaying toxic masculinity simply because he has shown that he has feelings. And that sometimes when he is emotional, he might react differently than he does when he's not experiencing a negative emotion. Not only did Lydia follow him to this show, she betrayed his trust prior to and invaded his privacy, according to him. So he was on guard as a result. Not only did Lydia cause this sense of distrust, Lydia also negatively affected his chances at a future relationship with Aaliyah. Let's not pretend that if the roles were reversed, that Lydia would not display any negative emotions about this. Lastly, I would hire Uche quickly if I needed a lawyer. I don't know if he does, criminal law, but he was giving Annalise Keating when he was gathering those facts about Aaliyah's past. Was that the proper setting for it? No. But you need that type of confidence and that type of composure in the courtroom. So, yes, he would get my vote if I needed a lawyer. Okay, moving on to Aaliyah. Final thoughts on Aaliyah. Her choice to cheat and then hide her infidelity from her ex wasn't the best move, and she acknowledged that and acknowledged how terrible that was. Seeing her break down while disclosing this hard truth to Uche was difficult to watch. It made me question, was this the first time that she had shared this hard truth with someone? Because if Uche was the first person to hear that, then that would mean this is the first time that she's actually processing in real time, those emotions that maybe she didn't address if she didn't tell anyone else about the cheating. So if she hadn't told anyone else about the infidelity prior to talking to Uche, it's a good reminder that each one of us deserves to have a select group of trusted people that we can not only share our wins with, but that we can expose our mistakes, our regrets, and our flaws to. So while Aaliyah may have wanted to turn a new leaf and be honest about this past error, even when it was difficult to do so, maybe at that point in time, Uche wasn't the safest person for Aaliyah to process all of that with. He later acknowledged that he still needs practice with creating a safe space for difficult conversations. So feedback for Aaliyah for the future. If you make a poor choice that could negatively impact someone else, please don't hold that in. Tell the person that you may have offended, apologize quickly, and forgive yourself. And each time that you think about that error, forgive yourself again. Then make a concerted effort to do things differently should that same test or temptation arise. As I stated, having difficult conversations is key to building trust and practicing being honest and vulnerable in our relationships. But who we confide in, that matters. If you're constantly worrying about your partner's ability to forgive your past, that will hinder your willingness to have crucial conversations with them. So you'll always have to stay at a superficial level because you're worried about, will they run or will they judge me if I go past the surface level and start getting into some of the nitty-gritty of my past. As for the drama with Lydia, yeah, two is company, three is definitely a crowd. And the moment that Lydia continued to violate boundaries by talking to Aaliyah about Uche and his personal details, she could have exited the room. She could have stopped having conversations with her. She could have even gone to a producer and said, it's been brought to my attention that Uche and Lydia have dated each other previously, and I don't know what this looks like, but I don't want to have any further interactions with her because despite me telling her I don't want to talk about Uche, she continues to talk to me about him. What's the move? What next steps? How do we move forward from here so that I can keep my relationship without having to have my boundaries disrespected? And lastly, Lydia, it's giving obsession vibes. It's a lot. It was a lot to hear Uche say, I'm getting screenshots from several women showcasing your personal Instagram profile, watching their stories for weeks at a time. Not only is she following these stories, but she has driven past Uche's house in the past, taken a picture of his driveway with the caption, I see you. Police! Help! Last but not least, you follow him to Love is Blind, where the premise is for you to make an emotional connection with a stranger, not to rekindle with your ex. And once you find out who has his interest and who has his attention, Lydia, you go and you bond with that woman. So that's a lot to do for an ex who is claiming he never had a exclusive relationship with you, and he's not taking any steps towards reconciling with you and starting from ground zero, as you alleged. I don't know what's going to happen at this finale, but I am interested to see what happens at the altar, for sure, for Lydia and Milton after this whole love triangle blew up. Well, that's all that I have for today on this specific topic. If you have enjoyed this video, please feel free to give it a like, subscribe to my channel for more content, and hit that notification bell so you never miss one of my posts. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I will hopefully see you in my next video. Bye, guys.